Hey, what are you doing up? It's late. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. What the hell are you doing up this late? You can't sleep. Do you know why? No. Okay then. Do you want to go to sleep? Okay then. I guess I'll help. Do you know what could help? Okay. I'm just gonna read, I guess. Would Quick Still work? It's by Mike McLaughlin. This book is one of the books I haven't read yet, surprisingly. Would you be okay with me reading this? You would? Okay. I'm sorry if I stutter or repeat the sentence or reread the sentence. I'm not used to reading out loud. I usually read. I mentally read most of the time. Okay, here I go. Jason's head snapped up. He couldn't sleep now, not while he still had a mission to accomplish. His horse was still plodding along. Jason put his heels to the poor creature and urged it into a trot. He had been riding for 3 days, barely sleeping except in small and frequent doses. He had to finish his mission, even if it killed him. His poor horse had been up the entire time, covering hundreds of miles, only a few stops for water. Jason knew the faithful steed would survive to the end, but this task was more important than a good horse. He still had a box tucked under one arm. Jason guarded it like it was the most precious object in the world. And as far as he knew, it was. The box was simple, made of strong oak. Steel covered the corners and made up the block. It was about 2 feet long, 2 feet a foot wide, and half a foot deep. Jason shivered as an autumn night night's breeze blew over him. He pulled his thick wool cloak tighter around himself. He gave his coat into a tug and to shield his face from the night air. Under the cloak, he wore wool breeches, a studded leather tunic, and leather riding gloves. Just a little further, he urged his horse. Not too long now. Suddenly, a soft whistling sound pierced the silence. His horse gave a strangled scream and pitched forward. Jason sailed over its head and landed heavily on his back. He groaned, struggled to his feet, turning to look back at his horse. Protruding from its neck was a long, white-feathered black arrow shaft. Jason started running down the path as fast as he could. Another arrow sailed over his head. He ran through the woods, bordering the path, and kept running. Even though his exhaustion, he was quick and sure-footed. Then He heard the sound that filled him with dread. Horses. They had horses. Jason stopped. He would never be able to outrun them. He took a deep breath and walked to the middle of the path. He still held the box, had miraculously held on to it the entire time. His master had trusted him to keep it safe, and did not plan on letting his master down. As the horse drew close, Jason pulled back his cowl. His unruly brown hair struck up all over his head. A coarse beard had grown since he had begun his flight. His face was gaunt, and he had deep circles under his eyes, but his jaw was set. His fierce brown eyes glowed, and with determination. He would not fail. He could not. The horses were bearing down. Jason could see 3 of them. One of the riders had a bow drawn and aimed at his head. The rider in the center was a huge giant of a man with a massive 2-handed great sword slung across his back. The rider to Jason's right had whip curled in hand while he held the reins in his other. All 3 wore black cloaks with their curls up, hiding their faces. So they sent these 3, he thought. The one with the bow released his arrow. Jason held up his hand. Just before the arrow hit, he released a small pulse of energy. The arrow hit the blast and shattered. Jason jumped out of the way as the riders thundered past. He let out another pulse, that smashed into the archer's horse. The blast caved in the horse's ribcage, and it ran into the giant horse, sending both riders and mounts crashing into the ground in a tangled bloody mess. The man with the whip had turned and was galloping back towards Jason. He uncurled his lash and sent it flying towards Jason's face. The boy sent up another pulse, which deflected the whip and slammed into the rider's chest. He was sent flying from his horse to land on the ground in the broken pile. Jason could tell from the awakened position that the man was in that he was most likely dead. The giant had untangled himself from the carcasses on top of him. The archer lay motionless. The big man started forward. He drew his sword from its sheath. The blade was wider than Jason's neck, and its widest point. The man held the sword easily, seeming very comfortable with it in his hands. Jason held up his arms and sent a pulse straight at the giant's heart. The big man didn't even break his stride. Jason cursed, as the giant was wearing a magic-resistant cloak. What? You don't think it's helping? Okay. Don't take this wrong, but would cuddling help? I mean, you don't have to, but I think it would help. I think it helps because it shows comfort in a way, especially with people you're comfortable with, and when you're with people that you know well, it'll make you feel comfortable and more relaxed, which will help you fall asleep. Plus the warmth. Usually warmth helps with sleep. So do you wanna try that? Oh, okay then. Here, let me just get comfortable and then you could and then position yourself however you'd like. Okay. Come here. Come here. Can't believe I'm doing this. Good night. Hey, you up? fallen asleep. Good night.